Hello, and welcome back to Understanding Depression. I'm really grateful you're here, whether you're tuning in to understand yourself better, support someone you care about, or simply stay informed. In today's episode, we're diving deep into a topic that touches all of us in some way, stress, and how it can sometimes open the door to something more serious, depression. We often hear phrases like, "I'm so stressed," "I think I'm getting depressed," or "work is depressing me." But is stress really the same as depression? Can stress cause depression? And if so, how? These are not just casual questions, they're vital ones. Because when we understand how stress operates, and how it interacts with our mind and body, we gain power. The power to recognize early signs, the power to intervene, and most importantly, the power to heal. So stay with me. In this episode, we'll break down the biological and psychological mechanisms behind stress and depression, how chronic stress can trigger depressive episodes, the difference between normal stress and the stress that becomes dangerous, and what we can do to manage both before they spiral out of control. Let's begin with the basics. We throw the word stress around a lot, but what does it actually mean? Stress is our body's natural response to any demand or challenge, what scientists call a stressor. It could be anything from an upcoming exam, a tight deadline at work, a breakup, or even something positive like getting married or moving to a new place. When we encounter a stressor, our body goes into what's called the fight or flight response. The brain signals the release of hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which increase our heart rate, sharpen our senses, and get us ready to act. This response was designed to help our ancestors escape predators, but in modern life, it's triggered by everything from traffic jams to financial worries. There are two main types of stress: acute stress, which is short-term and often resolved quickly; chronic stress, which is ongoing, persistent, and can feel inescapable. Acute stress can actually be helpful. It boosts performance and focus in small doses. But when stress becomes chronic, it can wreak havoc on both your physical and mental health. And this is where depression enters the conversation. Depression is more than just feeling sad or low. It's a complex mental health disorder that affects how you think, feel, and function. It can manifest as persistent sadness, loss of interest in things once enjoyed, fatigue, sleep disturbances, feelings of worthlessness, and even physical symptoms like aches and pains. Unlike stress, which is a response to a situation, depression often lingers, even when the original trigger is gone, or there may be no clear trigger at all. But here's the tricky part. Chronic stress can lead to depression. And this isn't just an opinion. It's backed by years of research in psychology and neuroscience. In the next part, we'll dive into how stress actually rewires the brain and sets the stage for depressive symptoms. Let's talk brain science. Don't worry, we'll keep it friendly and digestible. When we're under stress, especially for long periods, our brain actually changes. That's not just a metaphor. Imaging studies have shown that chronic stress can physically alter brain structure and function. One of the most affected areas is the hippocampus, a part of the brain critical for memory and emotional regulation. Prolonged exposure to high cortisol levels, our main stress hormone, can shrink the hippocampus, impairing its ability to regulate mood. Another area impacted is the prefrontal cortex, which helps us with decision-making, planning, and emotional control. Chronic stress weakens its functioning, making it harder to think clearly or respond rationally to challenges. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, becomes hyperactive. That means our brain becomes more alert to threats, more emotionally reactive, and less able to calm itself down. This imbalance, a weaker prefrontal cortex, a shrinking hippocampus, and an overactive amygdala, is a recipe for emotional instability, and it's often seen in people with clinical depression. So, in a very real sense, chronic stress primes the brain for depression. Here's something many people don't know. Mental health isn't just in your head, it's in your body too. When we experience stress, our body doesn't just react hormonally, it also reacts in the immune system. Chronic stress leads to persistent low-grade inflammation, and this inflammation is now believed to be one of the biological links between stress and depression. Some studies have found elevated levels of inflammatory markers, like cytokines, in people with major depressive disorder. These markers can interfere with neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which regulate mood, motivation, and pleasure. Think about that. Stress doesn't just make you feel bad emotionally. It can biologically disrupt the very systems that keep your mood stable. This makes the connection between stress and depression not just psychological, but deeply physical. Aside from brain chemistry and hormones, there's another key pathway connecting stress and depression: our thoughts and coping mechanisms. Stressful events, especially ones that are unpredictable, uncontrollable, or chronic, can impact how we see ourselves, others, and the world. If you've ever felt stuck in a stressful situation for too long, you might have noticed how your inner voice begins to change. You start thinking things like, "I can't do this. Things will never get better. It's all my fault." These negative thought patterns, known as cognitive distortions, often take root during prolonged stress, and when left unchecked, they form a breeding ground for depression. In psychological terms, this is called learned helplessness, a mental state where you believe that nothing you do can change your circumstances. It's been closely linked with the development of depressive symptoms. When we feel powerless, our self-esteem drops, our motivation dwindles, and we begin to lose hope. This is why some people who experience ongoing job stress, financial hardship, or toxic relationships may slowly spiral into depression. Not necessarily because the situation gets worse, but because the psychological toll accumulates. Now you might be wondering, if stress is everywhere, why doesn't everyone get depressed? That's a great question, and the answer lies in something psychologists call the diathesis stress model. This model suggests that depression arises from the interaction between two things. 1. A vulnerability, like genetic predisposition, past trauma, or personality traits. A stressor, like a major life change, chronic pressure, or sudden crisis. If someone has a strong vulnerability and encounters a high-stress event, they're more likely to develop depression. On the other hand, a person with low vulnerability might handle that same stressor just fine. This explains why two people can go through the exact same situation, say, losing a job or going through a breakup, but have completely different emotional outcomes. One might bounce back quickly, while the other may fall into a depressive episode. Understanding this helps us see depression not as weakness, but as a complex interplay between biology, history, and environment. Support groups can also be life-changing. There's something powerful about hearing, "Me too." It breaks the isolation. Whether it's online or in person, sharing your story or simply listening to others can help you feel seen, understood, and less alone. Sometimes, lifestyle changes can help, though they can be difficult when you're exhausted. Prioritizing sleep, eating regular meals, asking for help, and setting small, achievable goals can all support recovery. But the key is, this isn't something you have to do alone. Partners, family, and friends play a huge role in recovery too. If someone you love is showing signs of postpartum depression, here's what you can do. Listen without judgment. Don't rush to fix or give advice. Sometimes, just saying, "I'm here for you," makes all the difference. Validate their feelings. Don't say things like, "just be happy," or "other moms have it worse." Instead, say, "that sounds really hard. I believe you." Offer practical help. Do the dishes. Watch the baby while they nap. Bring them a meal. Support can be simple and powerful, and gently encourage them to seek professional help. Offer to go with them if they feel scared. Let them know it's okay to need support. You don't have to be a therapist to be a lifeline. So, how do we know when stress is crossing the line into something more serious? Here are some red flags to watch out for. Persistent fatigue. Even after rest, loss of interest in things that used to bring joy, difficulty concentrating or making decisions, changes in appetite or sleep patterns, feelings of hopelessness, worthlessness, or guilt, withdrawing from friends and family, and in severe cases, thoughts of self-harm or suicide if stress begins to feel like a weight you can't shake off. Or if daily tasks become overwhelming, it's time to pause and take that seriously. These aren't signs of weakness, they're signals. Your mind and body trying to tell you something needs attention. Even when the warning signs are clear, many people delay seeking support. But why? One reason is normalization. We live in a world that glorifies being busy and praises pushing through pain. So when someone feels stressed, overwhelmed, or sad, they often brush it off as just having a tough week. Another reason is shame or stigma. People fear being seen as weak or dramatic. Some may think, other people have it worse, I shouldn't complain, or I'm just being lazy. This self-judgment can be devastating. When stress is invalidated, by ourselves or by others, it doesn't go away. It builds up quietly until it manifests as depression, burnout, or even physical illness. And sometimes, people don't even realize they're struggling until they hit a breaking point. That's why it's so important to talk openly about the connection between stress and mental health, not just in crisis, but as part of everyday conversations. Here's the good news. Recognizing the stress-depression link empowers us to act early. Managing stress doesn't guarantee we'll never experience depression, but it significantly reduces the risk. Think of it as strengthening your mental immune system. Here are some evidence-based ways to manage stress. Regular physical activity. Even a 20-minute walk can regulate cortisol levels and improve mood. Adequate sleep, not just quantity, but quality. Mindfulness and meditation, proven to reduce stress reactivity and improve emotional regulation. Journaling, writing down thoughts can help process emotions and reduce rumination. Talking to someone you trust. Social support acts as a buffer against both stress and depression. And if stress starts interfering with your daily life or feels unmanageable, talking to a mental health professional is not only okay, it's wise. You don't have to wait until you're at rock bottom. Early intervention is powerful. Sometimes people think resilience means just suck it up and keep going. But true resilience isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about learning to adapt, recover, and even grow from challenges. And here's the beautiful part. Resilience can be learned and nurtured. Some ways to build resilience include developing a flexible mindset. Instead of thinking, why me? Try reframing to what can I learn from this? Practicing self-compassion. Talk to yourself the way you would speak to a friend. Setting healthy boundaries. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. It protects your energy. Reconnecting with purpose. What matters to you? Meaning can act as a powerful anchor during hard times. Resilience isn't a magic shield. It doesn't make stress disappear, but it helps you bend without breaking. And when we build resilience collectively, as families, workplaces, and communities, we create environments that don't just reduce stress, but actually support mental well-being. Maybe you're not the one struggling, but someone close to you is. How can you help? First, listen without trying to fix. Sometimes, people just need to be heard. Instead of offering solutions, try saying, that sounds really tough. I'm here for you. Do you want to talk about it? Avoid minimizing their experience. Saying things like everyone's stressed, or just think positive can make someone feel unseen. Instead, validate their feelings, and remind them they're not alone. Encourage professional help if needed, and be patient. Healing isn't linear. And take care of your own mental health too. Supporting someone doesn't mean draining yourself. As we wrap up, here's something important to remember. Stress is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define your life. And if that stress starts to feel heavy, persistent, or hopeless, it's okay to speak up. You're not weak. You're not failing. You're simply human. Understanding how stress can lead to depression isn't about scaring you. It's about giving you tools. Tools to recognize the signs. Tools to care for yourself. And tools to support the people you love. If you're struggling, please reach out to a friend, a counselor, a support group, or a mental health professional. There's no need to wait until you're falling apart to get help. Sometimes, asking for support is the bravest thing you can do. Thank you so much for being here and listening mindfully. If you found today's episode helpful, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, Understanding Depression. Your support helps us reach more people who may be silently struggling. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever experienced a period where stress started affecting your mental health? What helped you cope? Your story could be the light someone else needs to hear. And remember, mental health isn't a destination, it's a journey, one we don't have to walk alone. Take care, stay kind to yourself, and we'll see you in the next episode.